Diarmuid McGowan. I'm a quantity surveyor, as Alan alluded to. I've worked with a number of different councils now down through the years. And I suppose the design and build journey really started over in Fingal County Council. They were the first local authority to take it on. I was working over there at the time, it was back in 2016, and they were involved in 4 projects. And the Office of Government Procurement put together a set of tender documents. And they used one of the Fingal projects to establish a national framework for design and build contractors. There was, at the time, I think only 3 local authorities tapped into that framework. When I joined Wicklow then back in 2018, they had a number of design by the employer projects that they were having serious issues with delays and whatnot that was going on. So it was perfect timing in that regard when I started, because the management team wanted to try and deliver something else over and above the traditional route of design by the employer. So the design and build route, it's not like it's in its raw form, where you just give a contractor a site and then at the end of it he gives you the keys back. So the local authorities were not ready for something like that. The set of tender documents that the OGP put together, it's a hybrid system. So basically what's involved in that hybrid system is, like, we would bring it through planning ourselves, we would design it, we would use standard type units, we would engage a technical design team on our side to monitor it. They would have no responsibility for design. Then we go out to tender. And then the contractor comes in with his design team and he has full responsibility for it. So we would have a lot of eyes on the project. We'd have an outside assigned certifier. Like I said, we have our technical advisors on our side as well. We have clerk of works. So we have a huge amount of oversight and we're heavily involved with the design. So that's just a little bit of the backstory. I'm just going to get into the presentation now and bring you through my experience. So the project there you see on the left-hand side was back in 2019. It was for 34 units out in Bolton Glass. Design and build, that was our very first project. And back in this year, 2023, we built a block of apartments. So this block of apartments, we used the design and build contract, and the contractor that won it, he basically just used timber frame for the penthouse units, but he built the rest of the unit traditional build. But like, we didn't care because he had a program and he was sticking to that program. So there's a couple of things at a very high level that you need to do initially to get this thing started. So you need to establish a number of frameworks for consultants and for contractors. And as a local authority, we wanted to streamline the approval process. And the approval process traditionally is 59 weeks, whereby a local authority goes into the Department of Housing, where I am now, and looks for approval. And that traditionally takes 59 weeks. So we wanted to see if we could streamline that. And by going with design and build, you're losing one of those. The stage 3 is gone. So you don't have to go into the department for that process. So once the site is identified and all site investigations are carried out, you do your planning for Part 8 should be prepared. This is just a quick snapshot of the program that we had to do with our very first project. You can see the bars there in yellow is basically where the department was now working with us. We go in, 3 weeks later we got our approval. The blue bar there is our planning. You can see there, sometimes, the department would have 4 to 5 weeks to come back with approval. You see another bar there, 2 weeks. They were coming back. So everybody was buying into this process, which was brilliant. So at the end of the day, we ended up with 43 weeks instead of 59 weeks. So now we've saved a bit of time there. Also, the construction period for that first project for 34 units for a local authority was 50 weeks. It's under the year, which is impressive. And I'll tell you why as we go along through the presentation. There was something that we put into our framework for contractors. It's called reliability and continuity. This is basically where we would ask a contractor to give us 2 independent references, not somebody that a big client that they would have pretty much. These would have to be two independent ERs that they worked on with a number of projects. So there was a number of contractors that weren't able to get that. We ended up with a very good panel of contractors. And in this, it used to be like in the qualification section, a pass-fail. But for here, we put it into the award. So if you didn't come up with this information, you know, you didn't score between 60 and 100, you weren't getting through. This is just a typical set of tender documents. Nothing here unusual for everybody here in the room. You know, your volume A, your works requirement. I'm not going to go through them all. The big thing here is C volume C, pricing document. There's no bill of quantities for a design and build process. There's a pricing schedule, and that's something that the contractor puts together really for our QS on our side to go through the valuations and that, and if there are any extras. We do look for a breakdown, but it really is like number of houses, site works with a massive prelim section. We also, as we were learning, as we were going through, we started to put this into our tenders where we'd ask the contractors to identify, you know, where they deviated from our works requirements. And if they did, you know, they were taking a little bit of punt that the assessment team might mark them down, you know, if they were giving us an inferior product. So that was something that they had to work out themselves. A lot of the contractors never filled this out. Some of them did. We had to take that into consideration. In this whole design and build process, there's a process called the gateway sign-off. You can see two samples there. So this is where this thing really accelerates when compared to design by the employer. So once the acceptance letter is issued to the contractor, he then has 2 to 3 months to finalise his design and get it signed off by our technical advisors. Now our technical advisors, and actually this is what the OGP came up with, we had to sign a certificate of satisfaction. So we weren't signing off on their design at no stage. We were just saying, yeah, okay, we're satisfied that your design now meets our works requirements, your samples are good, off we go. This is typically what came back from a contractor, you know, for this very first project. This was the Bolton Glass project, 34 units. You know, we hadn't seen this actually before, you know, it's Revit drawings, but it's impressive. Our M&E guys liked it as well, obviously, because you can see clashes and this, that, and the other. They're actually photographs from on site. You can see this was a light gauge steel system. So it's going up there. I also have a little video at the end, where the contractor had a time lapse on the entire project. You can see that at the end. So the benefits of MMC: off-site manufacturing benefits, leaner construction, high level of pre-preparation, reduced processes, construction challenges resolved at design and construction planning stage. The frames are lightweight, strong and durable. Speed of construction, obviously the Irish Agreement certification approved. So initially I had to carry out an exercise just to gain some confidence in the beginning with the management team that this was the right route to go down. But since then I've gathered a lot more information because we've a significant amount of final accounts that are in with us now on a number of design by the contractor projects. So that the first one there, the PWCF, is designed by the employer. So you can see stage 1 submission to completed units on site. This was taken over 5 projects. It was taking us 4.5 to 5 years to get through that process. So like, you know, if you're building 40 houses and it's taken you 5 years to get from inception to completion, there's something wrong. You know, average number of change orders here, 90. So that's 90 over these 5 projects. So that's an inordinate amount of work for our design team that's on our side. Plus now we're waiting for them to come up with information to the contractor. The contractor's coming back to us saying, we haven't got the drawings, what's going on here? There's all those arguments. Sometimes you can end up in conciliation. And the final account overrun is 10% across the 5 projects that we looked at. So 10% doesn't sound like a lot of money, but 10% of 5 million is 500,000. That's two units, in my mind, coming from a QS perspective. So if we look at the PWCF designed by the contractor, 8 projects. Stage 1 submission to completed units on site, 2.5 to 3 years. The very first project we did We got under 2 years, but the more that we ramped up, we were just getting stretched. And so it was pushing out a bit. But still, 2.5 compared to 4.5, you're saving 2 years by going design and build. The average number of change orders, 10. And this is across 8 projects. And one of them there was that apartment block. My experience of working on apartment blocks, you know, there's an inordinate amount of variations usually. So the final account over on 2%. So 2% of 500,000, I'll leave that to you to work out, is not a lot. Quickly again, just bring you through this one. It's basically where I tried to compare 2 very similar type projects, using both forms of contract. So this is the first one, designed by the employer. Stage 1, I was the project manager on this one, so I didn't do a great job on it. Stage 1 to substantial completion, 4.5 years. Contract sum, 8.8 million. Change order total, 1.1 million. I've left out 700,000 here where the ESB let us down on something. They told us there was capacity in the system and then there wasn't. And we had to do 2 road crossings, cost of 700,000. But I'm leaving that out to try and compare apples with apples. So it's 12.5% of a contract over on stage 2, stage 3 submission. Design and tender documents, 18 months. So that's a big thing there. 18 months it took us to get the design over the line. So that means we had several iterations, either with the consultants that were designing it themselves and then going into the department, and we were over and back, and it took us 18 months, which is an inordinate amount of time. Change order number 75, because I was the PM on it, so I got that down from 90 to 75. With 24 months construction programme. So 4.5 years to deliver 47 units. It's just not good enough. Here's another one now. So this is designed by the contractor, 46 units. Stage 1 to completed units. And we had an awful lot of problems on this particular project. 2 years, 10 months. Contract sum, fairly similar to the other one, 9 million. Change order total, 175,000. That's where we finished on that particular project. But here's the key. Stage 2 approval to gateway sign off, 8 months. 8 months compared to what I was looking at there, 16 months. A 19 months construction program, like we did run into a difficulty on this particular project. The main foul drainage was done by one particular contractor. The in-curtilage drainage was done by another. The 2 weren't talking. And we had to dig it all up and start again. Well, the contractor did. But designed by the contractor, he had to suck that up, the cost for it. So just roughly, what are all these benefits? For us, it's an inordinate amount of time saved. So once you've established your frameworks, you save time in the procurement process. We went through that. Standardization of unit types. So now we're trying to roll out a standard type of unit. Now, all the schemes, if you went down to Wicklow and looked at a number of the schemes, they don't all look the same. But if you walk inside, they pretty much look the same. But we're just trying to standardise the unit type. Then significant reduction in time due to overall gateway sign-off process. I just brought you through that. The approval process is shorter. We talked about that earlier. And then the timber frame itself, because everybody thinks, oh yeah, timber frame or light gauge steel, you know, this is the big saver. No, it's not. It's an accumulation of a number of things. We did save time by going with MMC, but we saved maybe 3 or 4 months. We weren't saving the 2 years by going with a different form of construction. So, and I spoke about the reduction in change orders and final accounts, making the QS job fairly palatable. So this was our programme in Wicklow. There's 18 projects here, and the pipeline is from 2021 to 2023. We've got to 300 of those are now complete. So this is 500 units. That seems to have gone. It's 500 units, and that's 125 million pounds worth of work. For a relatively small local authority, that's pretty good going. Also, we had our 8 projects that were designed by the employer, and there was, you know, I got to 100 million over there. So in that period of time, like, we were producing an awful lot of units, and we were wiping out a lot of our good sites though at the time. The sites that are left now, there's a bit of work left in them. So that was our pipeline. In that there, you'll see that we had an LGS system. That's where the contractor started off with. I think it just got a little bit, I think it got a bit more expensive then with inflation and everything, and they started to move to timber frame. We had 5 different contractors involved in this. We have our first, see I still say we from Wicklow, we have our first ICF system, which is that insulated concrete formwork. That's our first project. It's just a standard scheme of 20 units, but they're just, different types coming in, and that's where the competitiveness starts. So I'm now working on this accelerated delivery group with the Department of Housing, whereby there was 30 sites across 13 local authorities that had indebted land that they weren't moving on at the time. So the government decided to wipe out the debt and said, in order to do that, you must engage in MMC and design and build. So at the moment now, for the last 3 or 4 months, we've been setting up frameworks. So these frameworks are going to be rolled out in the next, there's one about to go in 2 weeks, Group 1. The counties in red are the lead counties. The counties there shaded in blue are on the accelerated delivery, and all the ones there in green now are all actively looking at design and build. So this is a massive cultural change for the local authority to move to design by the contractor. And there's a number of them now doing it. There's only 3 or 4 that aren't, which is brilliant, and long may it last. I have a little video here now. Yeah, so we're all A2 rated.
All the savings in time.
Yeah,
I assume by implication you're saving costs
yeah,
because you're getting that time back.
absolutely. Of course you are.
Yeah.
In multiple different facets. Between design team fees that you'd be charged extra over for.
So it's probably no less or more to build with MLC, but the overall life cycle costs come in when you're delivering quicker.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There is an exercise that has to be carried out there, just to compare the two in relation to costs. But at the moment, they're coming in pretty much the same. But somebody needs to carry out an exercise to see what are these, when you add in the 10%,
Yeah.
when you add in your additional design team fees, when you add all that in, where does it actually fall?
And of course, what you're building is social homes, social houses.
Social or affordable?
Yeah.
These are social, yeah.
So they'll be given to people on the housing list,
Yeah,
would be right?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, yeah. Very good.
That was the scheme. Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Cheers.